And that's the problem that we're talking about here. And I'm going to once again say thank you for joining us, and we value your time. Feel free, if you have a question, you can pop it in the chat room, and we will open it up for questions towards the end here. But it's my pleasure now to turn things over to the president and CEO of American Promise, Jeff Clemens. Jeff and I have gotten to know each other over the past few months, and I just think he's an incredible guy, a bright guy, and he's an attorney. Worked for the Massachusetts Attorney General, but worked at large law firms. Has done a lot of diverse kind of legal work, but I think Jeff, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think in your heart, it's similar to me, you want to do things that make a difference, and I know you've done a lot of work in not-for-profit world, and American Promise is really lucky to have you at the helm. And without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to you and go on mute.
Dave, well, thank you so much for your generous personal remarks, as well as, of course, for your amazing volunteer work, and right back at you, except for the unfortunate footnote of he's an attorney, which sounds usually like and he's still okay, but he's an attorney. So I really appreciate what you said, and I think we're seeing that all over the country. I'm not alone, and the folks on this call, thank you for being here. I think you're here because the country needs Americans to kind of step up. Let's try to figure out what's gone wrong and how we fix it. And those of us who are blessed to be able to do something to fix it, well, it's just that, it's a blessing. So thank you. American Promise, we're doing a constitutional solution to this problem of out of control money. And it's a big structural reform that will last, in like most constitutional reforms, forever. But the paradox is how it gets done is very personal, very local conversations just like this that we're having all over the country. So I'll be sharing some information in a quick deck. Happy to make the deck available to anybody, including our friends in the media. Thank you for being here. And then we'll certainly leave time for conversation, questions, and then what we're doing in Pennsylvania that we think will be a real sort of tipping point, because this reform has really moved far, and I think Pennsylvania, as the keystone state, as always, can help bring it home. Before I dive in, though, let me also recognize Senator Jim Rubens on our board. Very grateful for Jim's support from the beginning on this effort. He represented his constituents in New Hampshire, Republican, ran in a Republican Senate election for U.S. Senate in 2016. It was the first Senate election that passed $150 million, almost all from outside the state. And that, of course, shocked the people of New Hampshire. And Jim, as a problem solver, stepped in to do something about it. So thank you, Jim. And I also want to recognize a wonderful friend and leader, and someone who's done so much service for this country, in defense of this country, Colonel Larry Lawrence Wilkerson. Colonel Wilkerson, thank you for being with us. He's on our National Advisory Council as well, served at all levels and capacities in the United States Army, including as Chief of Staff to Secretary Colin Powell. So Colonel Wilkerson, thank you. He's teaching at William and Mary now, so hopefully we have a new generation of service-minded Americans coming behind us, and we can help get the constitutional foundation set so they have a shot at success. Colonel, thank you for being with us. Well, with that, I will dive right into the deck. I'll share my screen. I'll walk you through the overall approach we're taking, what the problem is, how you as business people and people involved in civic efforts in Pennsylvania can help if you find your perspective is aligned, which I think just about every American we've talked to seems to find it is. We our promise at American Promise is that every American, as Dave has found out, can do as much as they want to do to make this happen. And what you want to do will be up to you. But what's happening in Pennsylvania already, we've had briefings like this with chambers all across the state, with Rotaries and other civic groups, and the legislature's paying attention. And we have a resolution where Pennsylvania would be the 23rd state to formally call for a constitutional amendment, federal amendment, to solve this problem, bring it back to Pennsylvania for ratification and implementation in Pennsylvania. And that has 5 co-sponsors in the Senate, 5 co-sponsors in the House. It's led by Republicans, and Democrats have been in support of this too. So we think this is very promising, that we will find Pennsylvania with a cross-partisan joining of the people of Pennsylvania, even in this divided time, to say, let's get a constitutional solution to this problem. So let me share more about what I mean by that with the deck, and I'll start right now. Okay, I say the constitutional solution. Just someone give me a thumbs up to say you can see it, and there we go. Thank you. We call it the 4R Freedom Amendment. It's a simple constitutional concept, which simply corrects Supreme Court mistakes that have viewed uncontrolled money from whatever source in elections as free speech that can't be regulated in any way. And so that's what has created the phenomenon, which I'll show you a little bit more numbers about, of the multi-billion-dollar campaigns where money is coming in, not to the campaigns, it's still doing that, but the real sort of big, and as Dave said, undisclosed money is running through super PACs, LLCs, C4s, all kinds of ways that are unaccountable. And we now have confirmed foreign government influenced entities spending money to influence US elections and more. So the constitutional solution is simply correct that mistake, give Pennsylvania the authority it has always had to actually regulate Pennsylvania elections around how money is being used to influence those elections, and that how Pennsylvania decides to do so will be up to Pennsylvania. And the same at the federal level, and give Congress the authority that it has had since the beginning of the Republic to ensure that foreign actors and concentrated power does not undermine and destroy the transparency of elections and representative government, which is what we believe is the real risk at this point. Why? Well, the acceleration and concentration of how the money is being used is the issue. So we can talk about $14 billion, which was spent in 2020. That's true. It was double 2016. It'll double again in 2024. It will keep doubling with no end in sight because there's no check on this without a constitutional solution. And it's concentrating. Most of the money now is coming from a very few members of what some call a donor class, and very concentrated, and therefore concentrated in a few areas, usually wealthy urban areas of the country, thus contributing to the alienation and lack of representation, and at a minimum, sort of deep cynicism or concern, and even worse, among so many Americans who feel that this country does not represent them anymore. So we can fix it, but it's going to take everybody. Constitutional amendments are big. They take 2/3 of Congress to propose and 3/4 of the states to ratify. So we do it when it's needed, and we do it when there's consensus. We have the consensus. This is Senator Olympia Snowe, former Republican senator from Maine, commending President Jimmy Carter in endorsing American Promise and our amendment. Senator Snowe serves on our advisory council with Colonel Wilkerson and many others across the political spectrum. We have an effective strategy. I mentioned 22 states. I mentioned about bringing it local, bringing it home. That's what we're doing, and that's what works. The national strategy leverages what's going on in the states, building that state support. So when members of Congress and candidates are out, wherever they are, farmers market, chambers, rotaries, you name it, they're hearing from their constituents, including those who vote for them. So Republicans and Democrats, independents will all support this for their own reasons and for different reasons, and sometimes use different vocabulary about it. But we believe that the trick to getting 2/3 of Congress isn't to sort of beat people up, it's to make everyone have a chance to be a hero and support this because their constituents support it. That's the strategy, and we find it's working very effectively. There's Dave, and he's just one of many wonderful business people and other leaders across the country stepping up to help get this done. Another one, Maureen Klein, Vice President of Public Affairs at Pirelli Tire, a global company, but has a big operation in this country based in Georgia. They have a zero political spending policy. So does IBM. Businesses don't need or like this system, and would love to see, as Dave said, and John McCree, our business network manager, has said, a level playing field where companies that don't need to spend money to sort of warp the political process to save their business model have to compete on a level playing field with companies and businesses that have a good product and just want to compete without trying to influence election outcome. So those are some of the thousands of business people around the country getting involved. This is the CEO of Trillium Asset Management here, Matt Patsky, making the case about why. Fact is, most businesses don't have the capital and don't want to have the capital to divert into political operations. They want to put that money into their business, innovation, competitiveness. A lot of large businesses and CEOs we talk to say, hey, it's not us trying to bribe. It's more like us being extorted by the super PACs and the big money operators who are telling us, they don't see that we've spent our money on yet. And don't you want to be at the table afterwards? So just about, all of the business people we talk to would love to see a constitutional solution where they can get back to business and out of politics. Except on a personal level as citizens, of course. So that's the business case. And in Pennsylvania, we have, as we always do, we don't sort of parachute in and tell people what to do. We work with people on the ground who want to help. And from Governor Ridge and many others, Pennsylvania folks are stepping up to help across the political spectrum. So we call that For Our Freedom Pennsylvania. We work with civic groups. I know we have some Rotarians on the call, including some who have done this presentation with Rotaries across the country. Again, the point is, this is not partisan. This isn't political. This is, we will need a vote in Congress. We do want to vote in Pennsylvania, but this is something that Americans can unite around to solve a big problem. And what do we get for that? Why do this? Of course, it's about this. The great American system is representative democracy and freedom that creates a virtuous cycle between, free enterprise, free people, innovative problem solving, a very active civic life, good communities. But it takes a protection and health of each of the pieces of the circle. And right now, on representative democracy and government of the people, if we don't get that right, we're going to be continuing in the vicious circle where Americans feel we don't have representative government or effective government, and therefore the circle starts going the other way. And again, why we have a massive distortion in our political process with the money. I'm just going to run through some numbers, and again, we'll share this with you. It in Pennsylvania, any state that has a Senate race, it's no longer about what the people of the state want to debate about. It's what the national power it's trying to decide who's going to control the Senate, shaping these campaigns. And they do so with millions and millions of dollars. I want to move ahead to, I'll just say that, the dark money problem, it's a bipartisan problem. Republicans were ahead for some years, 10 years ago. Democrats are now about 2-1 in running dark money into elections. It'll go back and forth. This isn't about finger pointing. This is the system we have now if we don't correct. I did want to say something about the Senate races, because that's what you're facing in Pennsylvania. 250 million is now the norm. 500, 600 million in Georgia a couple of years ago. There's no reason we won't have $1 billion Senate race in the next cycle or two. There is no end to it, and the power of what a Senate majority can do for some of these funders will keep this cycle continuing if it's not corrected. This slide reflects what it looked like only 10 years ago. In 2010, those are the 5 most expensive races in the pink bar graph that you can barely see. That's how fast this is accelerating. Just a couple of election cycles, and the top 5 Senate races now look like this in dark purple, dwarfing anything in 2010, which wasn't good in 2010. It was still a donor-dominated system, but we had some controls and checks and balances. The wheels are now off that, and this is what's happening. And again, as Senator Rubins points out, and what he saw in New Hampshire in the Senate race, most of the money has no interest in these states or the people who live there. It's coming from outside. It's coming from a relatively small donor class, and it's about control in Washington. Maine had a $200 million Senate race, didn't even make the top 5 in the Susan Collins race. This is our friend David Trahan, executive director of the Maine Sportsmen's Alliance, former Republican senator in Maine. He's a logger. He described the experience, and the Sportsmen's Alliance has some influence, statewide influence in Maine, and even they felt like they could not be heard in that $200 million Senate race. All the outside money, much from undisclosed sources. He said it was like being under an avalanche where nobody could hear them and they couldn't hear each other in Maine. And that's really important because remember, the theory of why we have to have this system is free speech and free debate, that we shouldn't be doing anything about money in politics because it would violate the First Amendment. What actually is happening is, for most Americans, there is no free speech. This is a rule that says if you have a super PAC and a few hundred million, you can decide what's going to be debated and what isn't. And if you don't, even people who have some power, like David Trahan and the Sportsmen's Alliance, are feeling like they don't have any free speech. So David has joined our advisory council, working hard, and the people of Maine have got a ballot this time coming up, doing in Pennsylvania. And so this comes home, it's local, it's personal, but it has a big national constitutional solution. This is the risk if we don't do this. The civic trust has collapsed. Americans aren't dumb. People know what's happening, and they know that government is not there for them, and they're not at the table and expressing their views and having influence and representation. This is a Pew Research Center tracking over decades of public trust, and Americans always have a sort of healthy, a healthy distrust of government power, and maybe a healthy sense that government isn't going to solve everything. But there's been a sort of ups and downs of a sense that government is there to represent the people most of the time, benefit the people most of the time, rather than there for a few big interests. It doesn't go up and down anymore. It's just the bottom has kind of fallen on that. There is no civic trust anymore. And just about everybody feels like the government is representing a few big interests and not really working for people. And now, whether that is true every time or never works is, of course, it would be an exaggeration. But this perception driven by this system has real impact. Democracy is sort of like the economy and the idea of investment. If you don't believe it, it's awfully hard to work. If you don't believe in voting having an impact, it begins to erode and collapse. So the good news, we have consensus. Americans are largely agreed that we need this constitutional solution. The question is, are we going to be able to get it done? And that's where business people really come in handy, and civic groups will be the very influential in deciding if we can fix this or not. And almost all business leaders are there in terms of we have to do something about this. And so I'll drill down now into Pennsylvania. This is, of course, I'm sure you're interested. Well, are these just broad numbers? Do they hold here? And the answer is yes, even in a divided time and lots of different views across Pennsylvania on many things. The broad, deep support for this solution is there among Pennsylvanians as well. So wrapping up, constitutional amendment can solve this. It won't be the only thing, but it enables us to then begin taking steps to fix a lot more. And it's a permanent solution. It enables Americans in decades to come to solve problems we can't even imagine. Election influence operations run by artificial intelligence, digital global currencies. We have a lot coming at us in the next generation. And if we don't get the constitutional foundation right, we're leaving them in a heap of trouble. Precedents. We didn't invent this approach. This isn't radical or new. We're not doing anything differently than Americans have always done. 8 of our 27 constitutional amendments so far have corrected Supreme Court mistakes that the country felt were causing real harm and that were worth the effort for a constitutional amendment. So this would be number 9. Consensus and unity. Lord knows we need that in this country. This can do it. Preservation of core principles like federalism. This stops the nationalization of every election. Let's Pennsylvania decide what's best for Pennsylvania. And that civic trust. We start to turn that around, that collapse in civic trust and rebuild. So that's the presentation. This is the future there in front of you. If we can get this done and give the generations to come in America some real shot at solving some of these problems. And it will give us right now a much better capacity to solve some of these problems. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing now and look forward to talking further about this this campaign, this effort to unite Pennsylvanians and see if we can do presentations in your chambers or your areas and support those folks in Harrisburg who want to make a vote to get Pennsylvania the 23rd state to back this. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. And I'll just add, and after our conversation, if this moves you, if you haven't already, go on the American Promise website, AmericanPromise.net, I believe is what it is. And there's a pledge form there that, just sign up. I support this. It sounds like a good idea. Open your networks, as Jeff said. Talk to people about it, share this information. And if you have an opportunity, if you're involved in a group or whatever, and allow us in. I know a number of chambers that are on the call have had us into their government relations committee to share this information. And we've had good conversation as a result of this. And then, of course, social media is very popular. So if you want to share your thoughts on social media, please feel free to do it. And finally, if you would support what we're trying to do here in Pennsylvania, that's the resolutions that Jeff spoke about. There's one in the House, there's one in the Senate, and we expect some things to move when the General Assembly comes back in late September. And would love to see that go through. And it's just stating that Pennsylvania would support a constitutional amendment. It's non-binding on a future General Assembly, but nevertheless, it's kind of signing on. And 22 states have done either referendums, if they're a referendum state, or similar resolutions. And we'd like to make Pennsylvania the 23rd. And our goal on all this is to get this amendment done by 2026. It is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I'll just add that Jeff and the team have been in place since 2016, knowing that it takes a while. Final point I'll make before opening this up for questions is this is something that we can do. This is a grassroots movement, and kind of restores faith in we the people. That if we see something that we think needs to be corrected, we can certainly do that. These court decisions go back into the 2010s and even earlier than that, and this is built up, so it has nothing to do with any current court. It's more the courts in the past, and we just kind of disagree with the decision, and the way to disagree with something and a decision is let's work the process that our founding fathers designed for us, and let's make that change by the constitutional amendment. So that's where we are today. And I do want to give a shout out. I see Katie Comfort from Berks Chambers with us today. We've had great conversations with Katie and Jim Gerlach, the CEO down there, former congressman. And I think I already mentioned David Gonzalez and our good friends in York. And I see Kevin is on from the Harrisburg Regional Chamber as well. So let's open it up for questions.
Hey, can you hear me?
Sure, Kurt.
Hey, thanks for putting this together. Thanks for your time. Jeff, you talked about the First Amendment issue, which obviously seems to be the primary hurdle to this. How, without getting into the weeds, how in practice does this work? If I want to spend $5 million of my money to support a candidate, how does the Constitutional Amendment control it?
Yeah,
First Amendment.
Yeah, great question, Kurt. I'm just going to repeat the question because you broke up a little bit. Maybe it did for others as well. But Kurt's asking on the First Amendment issue. Without going into the weeds, which is hard for me, but I'll try that. How would this actually work? And gave an example. If somebody wants to spend $5 million on a candidate, can they do that? So we actually at American Promise are agnostic as to the policy choices that people in the States and Americans in the future may make. I obviously have my own views about the ideal campaign finance system. I'm sure you do too. But in America, you don't get the ideal, you get the best that we can all agree on. So the First Amendment won't go away. The First Amendment will be strengthened. It's still about free speech. It'll always be about free speech, but it'll be about free speech for all Americans. It'll be about anti-corruption. It'll be about federalism, other important concepts in the balance. And then what Pennsylvania decides for Pennsylvania state elections will depend on Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania could decide, you know what? If somebody wants to spend $5 million and run for office, that's up to them. They just have to disclose it. What they shouldn't do is run it into Americans for Apple Pie and pretend like there's a grassroots movement of a lot of people supporting their campaign when really it's one check writer. Other states might choose to say, you know what, we actually want a whole bunch of different candidates, not just the wealthy. And just like, you can't give $5 million directly to a campaign, somebody can't spend $5 million on even their own campaign, because that would distort and prevent full debate. And they can spend $5 million on anything. It's not an anti-wealth, buy a Tesla, go to Mars, do whatever you want. But the political space is sort of one person, one vote. And some states may well decide we have to preserve that space. So we have to have some limit. What that limit is up to them. Again, up to the states, same on the federal elections. Like right now, there's a cap on federal campaigns, $2,800. But it's basically a joke because you're capped at $2,800, but you could put $28 million into something that does the exact same things that campaign does. So again, we aren't dictating what the answers will be. We think there's a broader range of choices that the people of Pennsylvania and Americans should be able to debate and decide for themselves that are still well within the First Amendment. Now, what you couldn't do is say, Democrats get to spend money or Republicans get to spend money, but the other side does.
We got a little freeze on you, Jeff. Yeah, but
he'll be back, I'm sure. But John has a question, followed by David, and then Kevin. So, John, if you ask your question, I hope Jeff can hear you.
Yeah,
there he is.
Okay,
He's back.
you can hear. Okay, yeah. The question I have, we're talking about dark money, but there's also, in light of what Mark Zuckerberg admitted to the other day, what about big tech and involved? If you take away the money, you're also limited. How do you value that as part of the whole campaign? That's as much as going to be anything, and that'll even be a bigger part in the future. I know a lot of people in Pennsylvania will be asking that question.
Yeah, and so they should. It's a very good question. I think there's in every era of America, there's been massive economic innovation that leads to political consequences that Americans try to figure out. And we saw it in the antitrust era with the railroads and other forces that threatened the same kind of principles we're talking today. I think you're quite right. The big tech is now like that. It is a global powerhouse. It is, real questions should be asked. If Mark Zuckerberg is spending millions and millions of dollars in an election to count the votes, that's troublesome. And it should be. Those questions should be asked. And the people of Pennsylvania and America should be able to decide we need some protections around the political space. Again, that doesn't mean the economic space. Those are policy issues there, but they're different.
You froze up again, but
There he
that's,
is.
yeah, okay. Obviously, that is the part of it, what he did in the last election by blocking,
In the
not
political
blocking.
space, we need a space for Americans. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm back. I turned my camera off to see
Yeah,
if that
you
helps.
are back, but
Yeah.
I also,
Okay.
I'm thinking of the blocking voices on the social media.
Yeah,
we talked about that
absolutely.
before.
Yeah, first, definitely, there's a lot of free speech issues around that. Again, it's not our job to have all the answers, but we do believe very much that we have to begin to have space to debate and decide some new approaches to ensure that.
Okay, Alan, who is next?
David, please. Unmute.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you both, and good to see you, Dave, and also our friends around the region as well. I guess this is a little bit more in the weeds, but is there a process you have in mind for reaching out to our legislative delegation members, just for the purposes of tracking conversations and understanding who has heard about the campaign?
If I am heard, I will
You
say we have an excellent process, and we're working closely with the Ridge Policy Group to make sure that we are doing that well. And we're glad to have our friends at Ridge working in Harrisburg to help with that process.
Would you want this coalition of folks to report back at all when we're reaching out to our legislative delegation members?
Yes, please. That would be wonderful. And Dave, the folks at Ridge, Alan on this call, any of us would be happy to hear how those go and to support you in your outreach.
Yeah, David, you can just get back to me, and I'll check in with Jason Hyde, who's handling this for the Ridge Policy Group. Again, I'm a volunteer in this, but I'm happy to serve as a conduit, and as I have with Chambers, and I know worked with Kevin, worked with Jim and Katie down in Berks County, and others around the state as well as and I don't know whether you have anybody from the Lehigh Valley, but Lehigh Valley went ahead and passed a resolution of support from their GR committee, which has been communicated to their legislative delegation. So things like that are helpful.
Awesome. Sounds great. Yeah, we're working on our resolution, so we'll get that shortly over to you guys.
Thanks, David.
Thanks so much, David.
Kevin, you were next. And John, if you want to put your hand down, I believe.
Yes, thank you again for everyone being here. Great to see everybody. I was just wondering if Jeff real quick could run back to that slide in the deck, mapping out the impact for small businesses versus mid-size versus large size, and maybe speak a little more to that.
Okay, let me find that, and then I'll share the screen. Okay. Is this the one?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, so this is a situation, sort of and everyone, as I said, may have their own arguments and vocabulary and reasons for getting behind this. Matt Patsky, CEO of Trillium, and on this call, John McCree, and I'll let him speak to it too, who's running a small business and mid-business for 30 plus years. But they don't have the capital to play in the sort of big money political game, so they're not at the table. If they do have the capital, they're making choices. Are they going to put it into innovation? Are they going to put it into manufacturing facilities, or are they going to put it into political operations to try to either forestall change that could impact their business or accelerate change that could impact their business?
Sorry, I think you might have cut
political
out again.
influence instead of economic activity. Not healthy. I'm sorry. Am I back?
You are.
If I go out, John McCree, jump in. And then the extortion point, if I could, Matt Paskey had personal experience of talking to a CEO of a very large company who said, we don't want to do this. They're calling us and putting the arm on us to spend big money. And we feel like we have to, or we won't be heard. We won't get our phone calls returned. So those were the three different pieces. John McCree, our National Business Network Manager, do you want to add to that anything on this slide?
Yeah, so we can't forget that in many states, small and mid-sized businesses are either the largest employer or perhaps the second largest. And I ran a small and a mid-sized business for 30 years, and a lot of these businesses just don't have the time or the money to have government relations departments, that kind of things. And what's killing small and mid-sized businesses today, you've heard this before, but we'll repeat it again now, is especially the cost of healthcare, doubling, tripling, and the impact that's had on their business. And worse yet, none of the employees are happy with the healthcare, and it's very high price. So that's just one issue that we feel that big money is affecting small and mid-sized businesses. There's others. I guess the real problem is when legislators show up in Washington, if they're spending more than half of their time from day one raising money for their next election, how can they possibly be spending time and attention on these types of issues that affect especially small and mid-sized businesses? Yeah, that's from my background as a small business owner for 30 years.
Yeah, and I'm just going to jump in here. The first time I heard about the dark money and that corporations could make very large contributions was back in 2012 when I was with the Harrisburg Chamber. I got a call from the government relations department of one of our very large, well-known employers, and said, this organization wants me to put money into this campaign to support, candidates or whatever. It's not direct contributions to candidates, but pushing, as Jeff has described. And the question was, is this legal? And I did a little bit of digging, and yes, as a result of the court decisions, this is, and it was a very large amount of money at the time. Now, by today's standards, it probably wouldn't be that much, but it was a large amount that wanted to be contributed to be used to push issues during a campaign, and it would ultimately work for or against a candidate, but it wasn't directly to the candidate, and it's not reportable. And that was the thing that kind of got them, because they knew there were no corporate contributions in Pennsylvania, and individually they could contribute whatever. On the federal level, there was the $2,900 limit, but that was our question: is this legal? And to Jeff's point and to John's point, this has ratcheted up more and more and more, and it's almost becoming expected of large amounts of money. And I would rather see it channeled into, as Jeff said, into research and development to advance these corporations rather than into influencing campaigns.
I want to say real quick, I put in the chat, it was requested a couple of times, the text of the amendment, and the link I've provided will take you to that language, which was drafted over the course of many years. But note too that it is a draft because we do want legislators to have full investment, full buy-in. They need to own it if they're going to pass it, and then the states to ratify it.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. And I'll just add that process. We called it writing the 28th Amendment, and we engaged town halls all over the country, Oklahoma, Texas, Pennsylvania, did one at the National Constitutional Center, actually, in Philadelphia, all over the country to get input from Americans, not just legislators or lawyers, but everyone. And so this is a work in process. If you have feedback on that text. It is not at all written in stone yet. This is the process. So we'd welcome any feedback and your participation too.
And Paul, maybe while we have a moment here, I'll just chime in conversations with several people, including former Congressman Gerlach. You know, your good elected officials, your congressman, your state representatives, your county commissioner, you know, if you have a legitimate concern, they'll take a meeting with you. They'll listen to your concerns. And this isn't to say that this is a problem that, you know, is buying influence. This is more of a problem of taking national issues and pushing them as a campaign issue, kind of creating wedge issues and creating more noise in a campaign than there should be. And you know, if it makes it difficult for a truly concerned public servant to do their job, because there's all this noise and this big money coming in with all these outside ads and outside issues and wedge issues, as we call them, you know, inside politics. One of the reasons I got involved is to try to bring a little civility back to our political and our governmental process, and I think this would help. So I want to, you know, make that clear. We're not saying that this is buying anything other than driving campaigns to where we don't want them to go.
I see a question from Senator Rubens.
Just briefly, we ought to note that American Promise is seeking this amendment be drafted by Congress. So the language, yes, is a draft. So it'll be up to Congress to finalize that language. And again, we seek an amendment that leaves it up to Congress and state legislators in Pennsylvania to design campaign money rules and regulations as needed in your particular state in Pennsylvania. You get to choose.
Thanks, Jim.
Anything else? Anybody have any other questions? Well, if not, Jeff, you have any final words before I give the final word?
I do have one final word, and that's a big, huge thank you. I do see John saying he could use the presentation for the Chamber Legislative Committee. Happy to send that to you, John. I'll email the PDF that I used here to Dave, and he can circulate it, and to Alan and John, so they can circulate it to everyone on the call. So you all have the deck that I used. So thank you, everyone, and Dave, right back to you.
Okay, I'll give one last call if anybody has any other questions. If not, a sincere thank you to all of you for joining us today. Give it some thought. If you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to get back to me or any of the American Promise folks, and we'll get back to you. As we've said, there is progress in both the House and the Senate, and we know the resolution is being circulated, and we've had indications by I think 5 senators and 5 House members that they're going to support this. And as you know, this is things will be a little slow during an election cycle in the General Assembly. They come back in late September and they're not in much, but then there is a sine die session as well. But we're optimistic that that this will pass. It is a good government issue, and people on both sides of the aisle that have been we've had discussions with seem to agree that yeah, this is something that should be addressed. So we would encourage you to share this with your members, and when you see them, and hey, I saw this thing, maybe you can find out more about this, and we can get them more information, or have the Ridge Policy Group follow up with them. So there's nothing else.
Dave, one more thing, if I could. Mike Koenig has a generally applicable question, so I won't take too much of everyone's time. Our friend Mike in Atlanta, thank you so much, is asking what advice to other states, but it applies in Pennsylvania too. Introduce us to folks so we can do this and have these conversations. Mike, we'd love to talk to the chambers all over Georgia and other states. So it really is a network play. If you can introduce us, most people find the conversation worthwhile, worth an hour of their time, and then they can decide, do they want to take it further, and many do. So, and that's true in Pennsylvania too. If you have introductions in chambers or otherwise, we would be following up cordially and respectfully with your network. So thank you. And Dave, thank you so much again for everything you are doing.
My pleasure. I want to give a shout out. I don't think I gave Lisa Stokes a shout out. BRP Entertainment, one of my favorite chamber members and good friend. Hope you're well. Good to see you.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you.
My pleasure. And David Dix, I saw you live there for a moment as well. So good to see you. Let's do a follow-up call here. I think you wanted to buy me a cup of coffee, so you owe me that. Let's connect. Okay.
Absolutely. Looking forward. Good to see you, Dave.
Okay. Thanks, David. Best of Arcia. Okay, folks, have a great day. Thank you so much for your time. Any questions, let us know.
Thank you all.